Well, my contribution to the project will be in terms of how to measure sustainable and inclusive growth based on the past experience of different institutions that have attempted to measure these two aspects. And I will start saying that there were some attempts in the past to measure sustainable and inclusive growth, and among these institutions that have carried out this measurement were the World Bank in the environmental accounting that was published in 2006, the OECD, measuring the progress of societies, UNDP, has calculated a very well-known Human Development Index, and the system of environmental and economic accounts where participate several institutions that has published this system of integrated accounting. Integrate the environmental and economic accounts. There are different approaches to measuring sustainable and inclusive growth. Perhaps most of the advances has been done in terms of sustainability, where there is a lot of discussion, and there is, as I said before, a well-established system of national accounts which integrate and includes the environmental issues. But for instance, among the works of different institutions, there is this report of the Commission, by the Commission of the Measurement of Economic Performance and Social Progress, which suggests some basic principles for the measurement of inclusiveness and sustainability. And so there are, they propose a lot of many principles, but the one that I have considered important are included in these three, which are, for instance, when evaluating material well-being, it's better to look at income and consumption than production, but then you will have a better measurement of the capabilities of households to spend and to improve their well-being. And also that the fact that emphasis should be placed for the measurement of sustainability and inclusiveness, the emphasis should be placed on the household perspective, not in the firm or in the large companies, the economy as a whole, but basically on households. And also it's better to consider income and consumption, but also include a measurement of wealth. So then we will have we will concentrate on measuring the flows of income and consumption, but also have a measurement of the stock of wealth and of households. But the one that I think the most comprehensive and the one that is better reflects the goals of this project is the one that has been adopted by the system of economic and environmental accounts published by 2003, and the OECD also in its study utilizes this approach, which is called the capital approach to sustainable development. And according to this approach, they envisage as sustainable development as a development that ensures non-declining per capita national wealth by replacing or conserving the sources of that wealth, that is the stock of produce, capital, human capital, social and natural capital. So according to this approach, output and income generation are generated through the interaction of different types of capital, which can be substitutes or complementaries. So the production is a function of producer capital, that's the investment in infrastructure, the machineries and all capital that are created by economic activity. Human capital, including the course education, the level of education, the level of health of the population, and other variables that are important, and the natural capital. And within the natural capital, as well as we will see later, there are different categories of capital that have to be included. So, then, based on this concept that production is the result of the interaction of different types of capital, so then we have to analyze what happened with these capitals, with these different types of capital over time, in the long term. So is the society and the economy depleting this capital or destroying this capital, or on the contrary, they are accumulating this type of capital. So based on that concept, this table shows along the rows the different types of capital that are available to the economy or to the society. So the first column shows the produced capital or the produced assets. So those capitals, as I told you before, the structure and machinery and everything that's produced by that type of activity, by the economic activity. And then you have the natural resources stock, which comprises different types of capital, like the mineral energy, water, and then you have the biological resources, produced, non-produced, land. So then you have the different types of capitals. And along the column, you have at the top, you have a measurement of the opening stock. So that's the stock of capital that you have at the beginning of a given period, of a given year. And then at the end of the column, you have the closing stock. So what's the level of those different types of capital at the end of the period. And in between, you have the flows. So there will be some processes that will contribute to adapt to that stock of capital, to the different stock of capitals, but there will be other processes that will be represent a depreciation or a depletion or a contamination of the different types of capital, depending on the type of capital that we are talking about. And until now, the most well-known and used type of investment in capital has been those that are referred to the produced assets. Normally, when we economists talk about, for instance, the gross domestic product, the net domestic product, the difference between gross and net is the consumption of the fixed capital that we are using in the productive process. So that also applies, for instance, to net and gross savings, to net and gross investments. So the difference between this concept is the consumption of fixed capital. And then, so the one that explain the variables, and say the variables that explain the changes in the produced capital are in the first rows of this table that includes or comprises the changes due to transaction, the gross fixed capital formation, of which also includes land improvements, the changes in inventories, the consumption of fixed capital. So those are the variables that will explain how the produced capital changes from one period to the other. And as for natural resources, comprise the changes are different. So that those changes in the natural resources and the stocks of natural resources can be due to addition to the stock levels, like new discoveries of, for instance, natural gas reserves or oil reserves, the reclassification due to quality changes, reclassification due to changes of functions, of the natural growth of some of the resources, like for instance, rainforest. And there are also reductions to the stock levels, such as the extraction of the natural resources of wealth, which eventually can result in depletion of natural resources. The reclassification of the quality changes, the reclassification due to changes of functions, and the environmental degradation of non-producing assets. So these are the flows that explain the changes existing in the stock of natural resources. So then the idea is, this is a very clear approach in order to measure the sustainability. So we can see at the stocks and also see at the flows, and then see how the stock evolves over time. If we are accumulating natural capital, or we are using more natural capital that we are able to replace, and therefore this natural capital is reducing over time. And the same approach could be used in terms of human capital. But of course, human capital is a completely different type of capital. It's perhaps a capital that will not depreciate over time. We don't consume human capital in a given year. So quite the contrary. If, for instance, somebody is employed and is an engineer or a doctor or whatever, he could be even accumulating experience over time. So then, in general terms, human capital would accumulate over time. But the fact that, for instance, we have a low given country has a low level of human capital would imply that the country is not producing its maximum capacity. So by increasing this human capital through investment in education, health services, access to basic services, have a better fed population, or reducing poverty, we will be increasing that stock of capital, which will eventually result in a much more productive society, which will be able to improve its standard of living and well-being over time. So then, based in these concepts of first having stock indicators as well as flow indicators in order to see how different types of capital evolve over time, the OECD Eurostat working group has proposed a set of statistical indicators for sustainable development. And this table divides those indicators or those variables which are fundamental or foundational for the well-being, which are the ones that really are very important for the well-being, and those that are more related to the economic well-being. I'm not going to go into detail because of the time constraint, but for each of these indicators, you have one stock indicator and one flow indicator. So the flow indicator will tell you the pace at which the stock is changing over time. So, based on the concept that I have just referred to, so there we can draw some conclusions in the sense that all forms of capital should be preserved and increased over time if we want to attain sustainable development. The natural capital is consumed through depletion and degradation. Depletion has to do more with the uses of natural resources, and degradation has to do more with the contamination of the environment, such as the atmosphere, water contamination, as well as land contamination. And human capital should be increased as well. I mean, we can use the same approach, the same capital approach to the measurement of human capital in order to analyze inclusiveness. And human capital, the basic concept would be that the human capital should be increased over time through higher education, better health, better population, better access to other basic services, reduce poverty, etc. And the lack of inclusiveness will be reflected in a reduced accumulation of human capital, which eventually will result in lower levels of well-being. So that's basically the approach that I plan to utilize in the measurement of these two concepts of sustainability and inclusiveness. Thank you.